Filibuster receives sponsorship from the Ehrlich Law Office, Discrimination, Wage, and Litigation Solutions for Northern Virginia and the District of Columbia. They want you to know that your rights matter. You deserve to be free from harassment, and you deserve to work. They cover workplace discrimination and wage theft, non-competition and non-solicitation litigation, civil rights, takings and disability, and a lot more. For a free consultation, go to ehrlichlawoffice.com/filibuster. Ben's a little bit mad at me right now because
you were wrong.
Well, no, that's future news.
Yes,
that's future news for listeners. That's future news. You'll hear about that later in the week. But before that, he was mad at me because I'm currently recording this in Williamsburg, Virginia, where I came on vacation with my family, and I did not consult Ben about the operating status of lunch counters in this city.
Right. Well, because if there's one thing that all William and Mary alums know, it is the current status of sandwiches at the cheese shop.
Is that from the chip that they put in your head when you're here, or?
I mean, we didn't even need that. We all just talked about it on Facebook. It's just like every William and Mary alum was just like, the cheese shop is not selling sandwiches anymore. What the F? And it just went organically. We didn't even need the chips that have been installed in our heads by former FCC chairman Michael Powell, who's a William and Mary alum. I mean, what?
Yeah, that was weird. Your eyes were dead for that. That was not.
Yeah, and
that was not
did
you.
They go
that was the chip.
Did they go a little red too?
Yeah, there's a little glitch.
There might be some evidence here that we're inching closer to discovering how Ben is a Manchurian candidate for something. It's just not clear what, other than possibly
Cincinnati will not get the wooden spoon.
I think if we say anything bad about Jon Stewart, the William and Mary chip will turn on, and Ben will be forced to scold us or something.
I guess, or
he was Jon Stewart was also a varsity soccer player for William and Mary.
I know. That was my pull. That's why I know he went to William and Mary, is the picture of him as a soccer player there. Hey, welcome in. This is Filibuster, the Black and Red United and William and Mary Conspiracies podcast. I am Adam Taylor, joined as always by Ben Bromley, Jason Anderson. We're all from blackandredunited.com, where we cover DC United, and we actually get to talk about the season now. The preseason is over. DC United opens their regular season this weekend, and we are excited. On this episode, we will be talking about the last preseason game and some news that ensued afterward, and we'll also be previewing the season opener against Charlotte FC at Audi Field. Catch it Saturday, 6 p.m. It's going to be cold, so bundle up if you go. If you don't go, you can watch it on NBC Sports Washington, Teleexitos, DCUnited.com, or ESPN Plus, depending on where you are and what your cable package is and all of that. Before we talk about any of that, though, Jason Anderson, what are you drinking?
Apparently today is National Margarita Day, or one of the National Margarita Days. I think if you go 6 weeks and you just tell me that it's that, I will keep believing you. But it's one of them. I saw it on the internet. But I don't have the makings for a margarita. I am out of all things lime. So instead, I've just got some El Padrino de Mi Tierra Añejo tequila, and that's it. Or it's on the rocks, but that's it.
Nice. I ate dinner at a Mexican restaurant today and did not know it was one of the many national days honoring margaritas.
Because you weren't online.
Yeah, it's true. I should have consulted with Ben. He would have known, and he would have told me. So I had a Modelo at dinner, and I'm having a Devil's Backbone Vienna Lager here to try to make amends with Virginia.
It's a classic.
Yeah. What are you drinking, Ben?
I am drinking. So over this past weekend, I made a secret trek up to the District of Columbia. I spent my entire time in Southeast near the Navy Yard. Saw Chris Fleming, a great comedian. And as part of that, we went to Atlas Beer Works. and I picked up a 6-pack of Atlas Beer Works' Silent Neighbor Stout, and so that's what I'm drinking right now, and it's very good.
If I ever run a brewery, I'm definitely going to have a beer that's called like whatever the name is, and then Stout Porter Stout.
Yeah,
I like that naming convention. That's a good one. So DC United's 2022 preseason is officially in the books following a 2-2 draw against the LA Galaxy last weekend. United took an early lead through Steven Birnbaum, who finished up a scramble that ensued after a Julian Gressel free kick, only to have Chicharito equalize for the hosts shortly thereafter. Similar pattern after halftime. Michael Estrada headed home a Gressel free kick in his preseason debut for United. Again, Gressel free kick. And then Chicharito pulled LA even. Jason, you were actually able to watch this game. I was not because, well, reasons. But what stuck out to you about this one?
As much as it's a little frustrating to take the lead twice and not come away with a win, I felt like for the most part, DC was pretty good. This was probably pretty close to the lineup for the weekend, give or take. Griffin Yao, I think Adrian Perez, according to Steve Goff, who was actually out there at the game, they were thinking about starting him, and then they decided maybe it's not the best idea. He has a little minor knock, so kind of a precautionary thing. But yeah, I thought DC outplayed the Galaxy for most of the game. I was telling you guys after the game that if you had to narrow it down to the 10 best chances, I say DC had about 7 of the 10 best. It's just that the goals they gave up were, especially that second goal, pretty substantial mistakes, but easily corrected mistakes is the thing. Stuff that you would expect them to not do very much at all once the regular season gets going. So overall, pretty good. They left some chances on the table, which I guess is kind of something that we got used to last year to a certain extent. But yeah, they were, when they pressed, especially, they were very disruptive. The Galaxy did not really know what to do about it. When they didn't press, this is kind of a thing that we got last year as well, which is they're not nearly as good at that style of not, dropping that line of contention and still pressing, but pressing deeper in the field than they do normally. They're less sure in those phases, and that showed up again here. There were, some individual performances. Adam, you mentioned Gressel's set pieces were as good as last year. So that's really promising. We know, especially early in the season, that that's probably going to be a big factor for a lot of teams. DC, should get off to a good start. The schedule has set them up to get off to a good start, but it is nice to have that sort of in your back pocket, that you don't have to score open play goals when everyone's still figuring the last little kinks out. I liked what I saw from Edison Flores later as the game proceeded. He and Michael Estrada started to show some connection. They had a few moments where they combined pretty well to break things open, which is probably, it took Flores a little while. For the first half hour or so, it was kind of like, is Edison going to get in the game or not here? But yeah, I think overall pretty solid for, this stage of the preseason. If not for a couple of breakdowns, DC wins the game. And if they finish a little better, they also win the game. So, not perfect, but they were the better team. And that's I think what I would like to see at this stage of the preseason is, like, the Galaxy are fine. I think they've been a little overrated by the national press, but they're not terrible. But if DC is better than them right now in their own stadium, there were 9,000 people at that game. So if you come into their preseason finale with a home crowd at this stage of the year, you're not really used to home crowds yet, and outplay them to the extent DC did, that points in the right direction. So I came away from it feeling pretty good, not great, but pretty good.
That kind of sums up the preseason in general in a lot of ways. DC United came through these 4 games unbeaten. Gave up some goals that were reminiscent of some problems from last year, which is a little worrying. That second goal against the Galaxy you mentioned, was essentially United had a corner kick and the Galaxy scored off of it.
Yeah.
And that happened.
You had a situation where Sofiane Jafal, after like 3 minutes after coming into the game, ends up being the lone defender against 3 attackers. And
that's a welcome to the NFL kind of.
Yeah, and it's not his fault at all. It's really that DC's posture coming out of that corner wasn't great, which, like you're saying, Adam, we had that happen a couple times last year. They were a little over aggressive in, I think their idea, the philosophy behind it is, the ball comes in on a set piece. You don't convert it right away, but it's still, there's something there to be had with all the chaos in the box. If you track set piece goals, like I've tried to do in MLS and NWSL for the last few years, a thing you notice is that there are certain teams that tend to score a lot of these second chance goals where the ball sort of gets cleared, but never really gets cleared, and people put it back in while the targets are still up there. And there's still a lot of chaos, and people are like, well, I had my man, but he made his run and the ball got half cleared. So I started going back to where I belong in our team shape. And in that phase of that couple seconds there, if you're putting the ball back in, chances are pretty good that something's going to happen. I think DC likes to go hard after that phase of play. It kind of aligns with the pressing ethos of like, let's cause chaos on their end and take advantage in those moments. But if you overdo it, if you're not shaped well to deal, you're one missed tackle away from a 3-on-1 with one defensive midfielder against 3 attackers. And that is what happened here. DC missed a tackle in the LA half, and all of a sudden it's 3-on-1 from midfield. I will say if Jafal had stepped to the midfield stripe, he actually would have caught Chicharito offside. I'm not sure the call would have come because the assistant referee in the game seemed to be in preseason form more than anyone else. But the idea is, you'd like to catch someone offside if you can, but I can't really blame him too much. It's a 3-on-1. And he's a midfielder. He is not a defender. He's not used to, no one's particularly used to 3-on-1s, but he's especially not going to be super used to an MLS 3-on-1 featuring Chicharito as one of the 3. So I don't want to hang him out to dry too much. But, that's a structural problem that DC does clearly. We talked about it last year. We're talking about it again now. This is something they need to work on and maybe consider, are we committing too much to this idea of getting these second chances to put the ball back into the mixer, basically? Is it actually worth the risk? Because I think DC did well on set pieces last year, but I think they were a team that's maybe shaded towards that initial delivery being more dangerous than that second ball, because Julian Gressel's striking that initial delivery and not Julian Gressel's generally striking that second ball. So that might be something where they need to just sort of fine tune it.
But what if we just cloned Julian Gressel or had like an ethereal Julian Gressel so there was always a second Julian Gressel everywhere? Or maybe just our current Julian Gressel needs to accelerate to 70,000 miles per hour so he can strike a ball and then get on the other end of it.
You're proposing like a Nightcrawler from X-Men, Julian Gressel.
Yeah. And
Nightcrawler was German. So we're halfway there. That's science. Right. He's halfway to Nightcrawler. He just has to wear the crazy costume. I remember from the arcade game, he was always, if you played the X-Men arcade game, it was like, well, is Nightcrawler available? Then I'll play him. But if it was one of those 4-player games, and if another kid was playing and somebody else had already picked Nightcrawler, it's like, well, I might as well just wait until they die, and then I'll play by myself, because it's Nightcrawler and then it's all the other the garbage characters. They're garbage for the comic. They were just in the game. One character was so much better than the other, and it was Nightcrawler.
Yeah, Jason doesn't want X-Men stands coming for him.
No, I think people who are old and spent time in arcades like I am and did will remember being like, oh, I have to be Colossus? This is terrible. And then you would be die and lose your quarters.
It's the same as Bo Jackson in Tecmo Bowl.
A little bit. It's not quite that severe. That's a legendary a player that simply cannot be stopped. I don't know why they were like, let's program a player in this football game that literally can't be destroyed no matter what you do. This wasn't quite that severe, but it was, it was out of line.
So how are you guys feeling heading into the first week of the season? Like I said, we had the 4 preseason games unbeaten. We only got to see any significant part of one of them.
Well, I was going to say, I couldn't possibly tell you because the only game that some folks were able to see was restricted to only some folks. And so I'm not feeling great because of the shortage of like bodies on the roster. I think that's pretty bad for the Maximum Overdrive system. And like there's like Taxifuntus is coming at some point, but that's only one more body between now and the summer transfer window. And there's a lot of games. I think over half the games of DC United's 2022 season happen before
it's exactly half.
Okay, exactly half happened before the summer window opens, and
that is correct.
I'm like, are we going to run? And especially right now, like, are we going to run Russell Canales into the ground because he has to start every game, like every game, like every game?
Right. And that's where I think I'm more optimistic than that, partly because we have a year of Maximum Overdrive under our belts at this point. So the learning curve we saw at the beginning of last season, they're already up on it. They don't have to climb that curve again. But also I've mentioned it before, the schedule this year doesn't, I think there's the first 2 months of the season or 3 months of the season, there's no double game week. And so they can just play at the regular schedule without grinding the players into dust, which is awesome. And hopefully helps our injury situation, knock all the wood like Bruno or something. So I'm optimistic about that, but they're definitely they need more bodies, especially in central midfield. I think Nyman can hack it alongside Knaus, but we need both of them there because Drew Skundrich is the backup for both of them at this point, and we only have one Drew Skundrich.
Well, let me spoil something from I got to speak with Lucy Rushton earlier today. That article, by the time this podcast comes out, that article should be on the site, and if it's not, it'll be up very soon.
It's a race.
It actually is, and I have to go through Otter and fix its transcriptions, which will be interesting.
So whichever of you gets your thing on the site first gets to be Nightcrawler, is what I'm hearing.
Oh man, because like I said, if Ben gets to be Nightcrawler, then the solution for me is to literally stand around the arcade waiting till Ben dies, and hoping that Ben's not good at the X-Men game. But yeah, one thing that Lucy mentioned was that Jeffal can play the 6 or the 8. They think he has the physicality. They think he has the work rate. They love his range of passing on the ball, and these are the kind of things that they said that, in their opinion at least, the only reason he was available in the second round was that he took up an international spot and that he was the top of their draft list coming in. So the fact that he's been in camp and has shown well enough that, this discussion came without the elephant in the room is that he's not under contract yet. But there's nothing stopping them from signing. They have the international spot open. They have the roster spots. Obviously, they've only got 25 players under contract, so they have the roster spots. So there's really nothing stopping them. And I imagine that it's one of those things where it's done but hasn't been announced rather than it being not done yet. So there's one more that they seem excited. It's not just we're excited to have this young guy and see what he can do, going back and forth between Loudon. It sounds like they plan on having him as a factor this year. So that's one that answers one question there. That is where he's been playing in these preseason games, be it as part of a midfield duo or as a trio, which it does seem like we're going to go back and forth there. I think this game against the Galaxy, I think DC played with a front three as a warm-up for this game against Charlotte, where it stands to reason that they're going to be very much on the front foot, very much trying to be extra aggressive, if anything, because it's an expansion team, as we're going to talk about in the second segment. It's not an expansion team coming in the greatest of certainty and normal.
They're not LAFC or Atlanta United expansion team.
It's been chaotic in Charlotte, and so this is the kind of team that you don't want to let settle into a game. DC already doesn't want to let anyone settle into a game, so in these early weeks this season, mentioned that they should do well to start the schedule because of the schedule, who they've got to play. I think we're going to see a lot of two central midfielder setups and a lot of 3-4-3 to start. But the preseason lineups that we've seen have pretty strongly indicated that Losada is thinking a lot about some sort of 3-5-2 or 3-4-1-2, one of those two. And in those cases, the roles might change, but yeah, it is still a concern. I think even with Jafal coming in, you probably need one more player who fits more of the Knaus ball winner role. Skundrich can do that. The team seems to think Jafal can do that. But there's still that issue of, can they? Sure. But is it their natural thing? Probably not. They're probably all in their own way a number 8, except for Knaus. And that might be where DC runs into an issue is, as good as Knaus is, we haven't seen him play more. I think it's 27 games is his maximum in one given season. Even if he's as healthy as he's ever been, you probably have to accept that it's 5-6 games here and there, plus the Open Cup, that he's not playing until, let's say, they go deep in the Open Cup. But yeah, it's still a question mark. It's still a reason to have a little apprehension, because we've gone into a DC United season recently with only 25 or 26 players on the roster, and it didn't end well. And so, yeah, there's a reason to be concerned.
So, Jason, are you going to start in the Open Cup for DC United?
Probably not, given that I just ended up with a month-long back injury over nothing. Just
from being old.
Just age. So no, probably not. I mean, I'm available. I'm a free agent. Legally, I can be signed without using an international roster spot. Or
it sounds like you would be a good candidate for the OG MLS Reserve League.
Yeah, I mean, those games were often played at 9 a.m. The morning after. So I imagine
by team employees.
I imagine a lot of the players that didn't play probably were mildly hungover. So that would help, because I would be I have to be at my very best for this, the one and only meaningful soccer game of my life. But what would happen is that these hungover guys would run me over immediately.
Oh, yeah.
From the opening kickoff, and that would be the end of me.
Because we talked, you talked about on Twitter that you found a moment where it was obvious that the folks who were eventually going to be D1 and pro players,
yes,
stepped up in middle school.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 Those ideas of someone's I bet if you played me in every game in an NBA season, I could score 20 points before the season is over. No, you would not score any. You would play 40 minutes, 82 games a year, and you would score 0 points and probably not even touch the ball very often, except occasionally the players might throw it at you as a joke, and it might hit you because they wanted it to. But you would not control the ball. You would never score. None of you listening to this, you would not score.
Because what were you saying? How good was middle school Kyle Beckerman?
He was good enough to just casually run, dominate these random indoor soccer league that our middle school put together out of nowhere with no real. It was a structureless setting, but he was clearly better than everyone. My friend Brian, shout out to Brian if he's listening. He often listens, I believe, to this show. Came out, I think, a year after he finished playing D1, playing in a tournament D1 college soccer. Right, because
he was a D1 college, soccer player.
And he just completely dominated the indoor league that we were in, and we suddenly went from being one of many average teams to the best team in the league because Brian was on the team. Nothing else changed. But yeah, in any case,
so wait,
go ahead.
Jason, I'm putting Adam to the side.
Attempt to get back on track.
Yes, I am. How much would you pay Kyle Beckerman to come back to Maryland and be on your rec league soccer team?
I mean, I don't have very much money.
Not in money, just in love or yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I would say we were at best acquaintances in middle school and loose acquaintains. He lived across.
No, he doesn't have to know you. Just would you want him on your now soccer team?
Sure, I would definitely want him on my soccer team now. I don't know that he has any interest in coming back to anywhere that's not the Mountain West, since he seems to have taken to that world. And Maryland is pretty famously not the Mountain West. It's quite different.
You could go to Cumberland.
I don't think anyone's satisfied with Cumberland.
No. I can assure you. Anyway, Michael Estrada played in this game, and scored a goal, which is a nice start for the new presumptive starter. It'll be interesting actually to see whether, I assume he's going to start this game, and it'll be a battle between him and Ola Kamara for the number 9 spot in the early part of the season.
Assuming that, I mean, we don't actually know how well Kamara is.
That's true. We found out I speculated last week that, his non-appearance in any preseason game it might indicate that he's out the door. But it turns out he was in a health and safety protocol. We don't know if it was actual COVID or if it was another illness or what. But he's apparently back training with the team. He may have some catching up to do. We might not see him for the first few weeks, or he might start against Charlotte. Who knows?
I believe he did do some training on his own here. He just didn't make the flight to California. So it's kind of a mystery as far as that goes. But it stands to reason that if he's available on Saturday, it would be for a short amount of time. Losada, pretty famously last year, did not want guys playing major minutes when they were on, if you can go 15, then it's 15 and that's it. And maybe not even that. So I don't know that he's going to play much, if at all, in this game. So Estrada is going to have to be a success from the get-go. DC is going to need him to play well to have some success in this game, even with Charlotte being seemingly kind of a mess right now. And the good news is that he didn't have a ton of goal mouth action, but his header on the goal was very good. The connection, like I said, he started to show with Flores and Brad Smith on the left was pretty good. This is kind of what you would want. He's only been in camp for a little while, so you do have to kind of take that as part of the deal here, that this might be a game where DC leans on him for an hour and then looks to Nigel Robertha, who has the benefit, or actually I shouldn't say that because Robertha's
out for these first couple
we're already
games,
back to like a forward issue. Like Estrada seems healthy. I don't think it's a matter of subbing him out for minutes. My thought process was like, well, familiarity wise, is the team going to need a change up at that point in the game? Hopefully not. But
it's almost like maybe sign the more people to your soccer roster because you need more people on your soccer roster.
Yes.
I mean, some of the problem is they do have a forward that they are trying to sign, and in fact, according to Lucy Rushton, they're still very much interested in signing as soon as possible. Taxi Fontas, it's just a matter of, how you need his club to also go through with that. But that's another spoiler for the interview. They have not closed the door on that. They are interested still.
They should sign Branko Boskovic just to be their Rapid Vienna liaison.
And leather jacket liaison.
Yes.
Well, yes, of course.
I mean, I assume he already has that position. Whether it's a paid position or not, I can't say. Anything else on this game or the preseason before we hit a couple of news items?
I think we can go to the news.
All right. The big news is that DC United has acquired as much as $425,000 in GAM for the rights to Junior Moreno. No, there's bigger news, but we're going to start with this one. FC Cincinnati is going to sign Junior Moreno, which is part of why DC United has a depth issue at central midfield, especially at the 6. The reporting I've seen is that the team, made him a formal offer at a reasonable enough price that it counts to keep his MLS rights because he doesn't qualify for free agency, and this league is weird. So for MLS purposes, his rights remained with DC United, so FC Cincinnati had to pay. I think it was Pablo Maurer who said that it's $250,000 this year and incentives up to $175,000 for next year. So $250 up front. It could top out at $425, depending on how much he plays in Cincinnati, which should be a significant amount because I have to think he's an upgrade on Harris Medunjanin, whose legs are basically just branches of a tree.
Even if he's still there, like they need more of everything.
FC Cincinnati has pretty famously never had a defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
They've had guys that are like Yuya Kubo, who they signed to be an attacker, ended up playing there last year because it was like, well, he's doing a better job of it than anyone else we've got. And Junior Moreno is a defensive midfielder. So, yeah, he's probably going to, we're going into this first game. We're going to see Jordi Reyna and Joseph Mora probably right off the jump. Probably going to see Junior Moreno in game 2 for FC Cincinnati, no matter what his fitness level is right now, because they're going to be like, well, our other defensive midfielders are Harris Medunjanin, who can't really run ever anymore,
Jason Anderson,
or just like a piece of paper that they've written in and set on the field that says, please don't play soccer here, to just sort of discourage teams from attacking in the middle. It's a little bit strange, but the rules of MLS give DC United the right to get a price for this, and they came through pretty big. This is a pretty big score as far as this goes, because if he wasn't coming back, like, I feel like 100,000 would be pretty good. But Cincinnati, and you ask them for as much as you want and see what happens with them, because they have a track record of being like, yes, yeah, go ahead, take it.
Right. I mean, you have to unleash your inner Garth Lagerway sometimes, and when you have the other guy over a barrel, you just take all their money that you can.
Well, and sometimes
he did to us.
We do need to figure out how much of this is money and how much of this is in Chile.
None of it should be in Chile because
we don't know this.
Bad. It has no value.
Wasn't there just a thing in the Slack, and I can't believe I'm encouraging the Skyline Chili debate for this one time only, about people had ordered Skyline and then what arrived was like cream of mushroom soup instead? Wasn't this something that in our yes.
But also now a different Cincinnati style chili is now on Guy Fieri's TV show. They're shutting down next week. Blue Ash Chili is to be on Guy Fieri's show.
But they're serving chili and not cream of mushroom soup.
Correct.
We don't
but
know
they're
that.
serving Cincinnati style chili.
Okay.
Which is Greek pasta sauce, as we've discussed many times.
Yes.
The actual big news, speaking of things you use in exchanges other than physical currency, DC United is
really a non-fungible token. I think so.
It's non-something. I'll say that.
I'm not going to engage in this.
DC United has a shirt sponsor after 8 years with government contractor Leidos. DC United. It was 8 years.
Was it?
They had a whole press release thanking Leidos for 8 wonderful years.
Volkswagen to Leidos.
That is how long ago.
I mean, shoot.
You were born, Ben. This is just an attack of you specifically. DC United has signed a 3-year deal with blockchain technology company XDC Network, which is we're not going to go into the specifics or the technical stuff.
Read my explainer for a high level
about
overview.
This.
Yes, Ben, put a link to that in the show notes if you remember too. Because if you're interested in that, it's worth reading, Ben. You're going to have another, like a second part of that explainer as well.
Yes. The first segment was what they say, and then my next piece will be like, but what do they say that we don't agree with? What are the problems with what they say?
Yeah, Pablo Maurer also had a piece on this deal, and the company, which hasn't been around that long. They're based out of Singapore. They seem to be trying to basically work with governments and financial institutions like the Fed to handle cross-border financial transaction settlement is kind of where they want to be. But they also have a consumer-facing coin, and they're going to offer NFTs to fans. So I'm not commenting on any of it. I'm just reporting the facts here. The good news for DC United is that this deal looks like one of the richer jersey sponsorships in the league, reported $6 million a year for 3 years. So that's 50% more than what Leidos was paying at the end of their deal, according to reporting. So That part looks pretty good for DC United. Yeah.
I have so many opinions. Yeah. I have so many opinions. Jason has so many opinions. I'm a crypto skeptic. I feel like we should just leave it there, because if we get into this, it'd be like 50 minutes, 2 hours, 72 days.
I just want to discourage any listener from contacting me about this matter. I don't want to talk about it. And in fact, I might mute you, like, straight up. I don't want to deal with it.
You can contact me, but if you are pro crypto, I will also mute you.
If you come into our mentions evangelizing and throwing out things like normies are dumb for not getting crypto, we're not going to talk to you. Like, honestly, one of the reasons that DC United fans have not responded well to this news, I think it's fair to say, a lot of DC United fans are very upset about this news, and they're not necessarily wrong to be, given the position crypto has taken up. But one of the biggest problems for crypto is the evangelists, who are really bad at evangelizing and mostly just spam people and yell at them in tongues without saying anything. So don't do that.
If you spam crypto, right to jail.
Yes, right to jail. No trial, straight to jail. Why does Fred Armisen play so many different ethnicities? It's weird. That's it for this episode. That does it for this episode. Thank you for sticking with us. We will be back later in the week with Alex Andreev from the Charlotte Observer to preview DC United season opener against Charlotte FC. Find us at blackandredunited.com, patreon.com/filibuster if you want to support us financially. And if you do so, you can get early access to the episode with Alex, get that preview earlier than everyone else. Find us on Twitter at filibusterdcu, at blackandredu. Send your emails to filibusterpodcast@gmail.com. Find us wherever you get your podcasts, and tell a friend about the show. That's always the best way to spread the word. So for Jason and Ben, I'm Adam. We'll talk to you again real soon. Say goodbye, Jason.
If you're playing the Simpsons video game in the arcade, you want to use either Bart or Marge, because they have Bart has a skateboard and Marge is a vacuum cleaner. You have a bigger range of attack, but you don't want to be Homer. It's tempting, but don't do it.